We're back with another Taking the Reins preview show. It's another bumper festival card, our third of the summer season, and things are really hotting up. We've got the Cape Merchants with no less than 20 runners plus a reserve scheduled for this Sunday, and 7 fantastic supporting races to bring you an 8-race card out at Hollywood Bets Kenilworth. Once again with me, I've got our resident betting expert, Kurt Felix. Kurt, thanks for joining us. Getting a bit sweaty in the studio. It's quite a hot day today.
Very warm, Just. Thanks for having me.
And it's worth noting, Kurt, just while we're talking about the weather, for the punting public, there's quite a bit of rain predicted for Sunday, and obviously the weatherman is probably less accurate than most of us punters. But if we look at the forecast, we're predicting a bit of rain and thunder showers on Sunday. So I think for the viewers out there, just to monitor if rain comes on Saturday before the main event, and just to look for those horses with a little bit of wet form, judging the wind, obviously, here from the presenters on course on the day, because as we know, the wind plays a vital role here.
Absolutely, yep.
Let's move into it. We're going to take you through, as per normal, we're not going to go through every single race, but we're going to bring you the main events for the bigger exotics, and hopefully we can bring you a big pick six pool. We do have a massive carryover pick six going onto Hollywood Bets Guineas Day. So let's get our eye in and let's get practicing with the pick sixes on Sunday, Cape Merchants Day. We're opening up with race 3, which is an MR87 1400 meter. And as we see throughout this part of the year, although this is essentially a Class 3 C Division type handicap race, we have a bunch of very young, unexposed horses going through the divisions, and it brings us a very competitive race. Kurt, take us through the betting of the first couple of horses so we can gauge the mood and the temperature of the race, and then we'll dissect the horses.
Right, Just, we got Champion Warrior at around 28 to 10, Hammy's Hero 7 to 2, Narina Tragon at around 11 to 2, Prevalence 6 to 1, and Tour Face 15 to 2, and around 10 to 1 bar the rest of the runners.
So the bookmakers have opened up exactly how the race profile looks. I think, Kurt, we got number 1 here, Champion Warrior. He is a Gold Rush candidate, and he really started his career off in fine fashion. Last time, slight blotch on the copybook. Can we forgive him? Draw 1. Can he put it right today?
We're going to have to give him another chance. Bit slow out last time, rushed up. So yeah, for 1400 trying again, you've got to have to give him another chance.
I think the big danger to him could come in the form of number 4, Hammy's Hero. Now, Hammy's Hero, this is a horse who I've been following for quite a while, and he started his career off with the Plum when he was a yearling presented at the Book 1 sale for this Gold Rush crop of horses. He really looked like one of the standout specimens on the sale. There's no surprise to see him climbing well towards the hundreds in terms of merit ratings and up that Gold Rush log. The question with him is he going to see out the distance for the main race? And I suppose this would be his audition to see if he gets the trip. He's down in class here quite dramatically. He ran in the sophomore behind Beer Jamming last time. Question mark is the distance.
That's a big question mark, is the distance. But like you say, he's down in class. He ran behind some quality individuals last time. Been super impressive over 1200 so far, but 1400 is a question mark.
It definitely is, Kurt. I mean, from the early days of being a young horse, he's obviously out of a Group 1 winning sprinter, Fly By Night, who ran for the partnership of owners. And he did look like a speedball at the sales. So 1400 meters, he's got a chance, you'd imagine, because he does like to be a little bit off the speed, and hopefully he can see it out, because if he does add that weaponry to his game, he could be quite a useful horse. I was quite interested, pricked my ears there when you mentioned the price of Prevalence, because this horse also, by Give Me the Green Light out of Sabina Park, a very well-bred horse, beat Future Swing in the Maidens, who is a above-average sort as well. The Snaith team took him to PE, obviously showing enough ability to take on a feature race field of that nature. Ran maybe slightly below expectations, but we don't want to be too critical, because he's only beaten 3.5 lengths by Kaya's Hope, who's a very good horse in his own right.
Yeah, 100%. And in that race that day, there were some quality Cape Raiders too that finished in front of him and just behind him. Back to a 1400, which he won as maiden over, so you've got to respect his chances. Number 9, Narina Tragon, another horse that you've got to respect, probably crying out for the 1400 meters on Sunday.
You've got to imagine so, being by Silvano out of that fantastic mare Beach Beauty, another product of the conveyor belt of quality horses coming from Drockenstein stud. Drawn 16 out of 16 last time, once again drawn pretty wide, but in a much smaller field. In all likeliness, Narina Tragon's going to have a lot less horses to try and run past to get into the placings, and is going to be a runner. Let's move on to the 4th race. Now, this would be Division 1 of the 1400 meter split. We've got a benchmark merit-rated 105 handicap. And Kurt, here we are quite wide open, but different to the race before this. Take us through the betting of the top couple of horses.
Silvano's Dasher, the up-and-comer, 17-10. Silver Falcon around 4-1. Quasi for sure, 11-2. 55 and My Bestie, 10-1. And 12-1 bar the rest of the runners.
I think this is quite an interesting dynamic towards this race. Once again, the bookmakers have pretty much got it quite sharp. The 2-horse Silvano's Dasher is fairly lightly raced and probably not caught up by the handicappers yet. I think he'll be probably a bit better than a 92 going forward at some stage in his career, or at least in the coming months. So you've got him ahead in the betting. And then below that, you've got what are going to be quite hard horses to oppose, your hard knockers, distance specialists.
Absolutely.
They're in their group in the handicap, but they're very capable at this level. So one horse that is pretty big odds. Look for Hans. What betting did you have him at there?
He was around 16-1, just big long odds.
I think those are big odds. Bernard Fadeherb takes the ride from draw 3, and a massive run in the Matcham Stakes last time, went third to Trip of Fortune. So big runner. I think 55 never does anything wrong, has been running against decent horses as well.
Yep.
Silver Falcon, and of course Hyde Park, as you touched on.
Absolutely, at around 20-1, huge value. And there's not much between the runners. My Bestie at around 10-1. There shouldn't be anything between them in the betting, but for some reason the bookmakers have priced him up at long odds.
What do you make of this horse, Quasi for sure? Started his career off very well. Peter Muscat's on the board as a raider.
Done nothing wrong so far, but now's a true test, bumping some older horses, some hard campaigners, thrown in the deep end on Sunday. So we'll see.
And then, of course, this looks very open. Pick 6 wise, I think, Kurt, you've got to go as wide as you possibly can here.
Yeah, if you don't go short with Silvano's Dasher, drop back to the 1400. A lot of people think he's a 1400 meter specialist. Last time, 1600 was a bit too far for him. If you don't go short, you're going to have to go very wide.
Absolutely well summed up, Kurt, there. Let's look for a little bit of outside value, possibly with Look for Hounds. We'll be back after this with the rest of the segment. We're going to move on to the 6th event on the card. The carded off time is 3:30. It's an MR80 handicap over 1800 meters. We saw a split for this event. And we've picked out this one, Kurt, because I think there's a pretty decent horse here. To the Moon and Back, he ran a massive race. You'll touch on the form and the horses he's been running against. Open up with a little bit of betting for us.
Competitive handicap, but the bookies have priced up wide already. Street Art, To the Moon and Back, and without question, all around 4-1. Chavut, 11-2. Global Alley, 7-1, and 10-1 bar the rest of the runners.
Let's touch on this horse from the Snaith Yard. They're obviously banging form. And number 7, To the Moon and Back. I mean, early on in his career, he's running in pretty strong races, running behind Lightspeed, etc. Maybe a little bit too soon for him. He's obviously by twice over. The mare Cat and the Moon went a bit of a trip. She's a good runner as well. And I think now as a 3-year-old, he's starting to come into his own. And he put on a very eye-catching effort behind Scalini, who's definitely an above-average horse.
Absolutely. And Sean Veal had his whip knocked out of his hand in the last 50 meters of the race as well. So there's an excuse for that run too. He might have just won the race.
Correct. Richard Faria's up now, and he is definitely going to be a massive runner. In terms of big dangers, I think we've got to look no further than right at the bottom of the card from stallgates 9 and 10. We've got Without Question, who is the stablemate with Keegan DeMello aboard, and number 10, Street Art. Now, Kurt, Street Art last time, he's run second to Inamarare, who is a well above average horse on his way to the Politician Stakes and the Derby. First run, obviously, as one of the raiders from KZN, first run in Cape Town.
Yep.
Fantastic second, running on well to the death. He's got the widest draw here, but being an elusive Fort Colt, he's beginning with every run. He's going to be getting a little bit better. He's got to be a big runner here.
Absolutely. Not much between the 9 Without Question and Street Art number 10. But you've got to think there's a lot more to come with Street Art. Drifted in the betting last time, so you didn't expect the Sable obviously didn't expect too much from him. And a very eye-catching run. But like I say, there's not much between Without Question and Street Art, and Without Question getting a half a kg pull.
And if we're going to see a bit of an upset to the young up-and-coming brigade, what do you think? What about the chances of a horse like number 3, Global Ally? He's dropped in the ratings a touch. And not a bad run behind Navy Strength last time.
Not at all. Been a bit disappointing. I think the stable thought very highly of him early on in his career, and he just hasn't gone on with it. So he needs to find that form again and prove that he is the horse that everybody thought he was.
Fantastic. We're going to skip the 7th race, the Cape Merchants, because we're going to bring that race to you in our final segment and dissect the big field properly and bring you a couple of reruns. We're going to go and jump to the last, which is the 8th race, and this is a super competitive fillies and mares 92 6 furlong or 1200 meter event. Very, very interesting, Kurt. I'll tell you why, because you're going to read us the betting, and there's a bit of a surprise for me. Give us the betting.
Yeah, just a race where we both thought the betting was completely wrong. Vivacious Spirit 28-10, Pacific Green 15-4, Live My Life 9-2, Distinction 5-1, Little Miss Pink around 10-1 and 12-1 bar the rest of the runners.
Very, very surprising there, I think, in my opinion. Obviously, the Raiders have been doing very, very well, but we can't get away from the fact that a horse like number 10, Vivacious Spirit, is going to be taking on a day and a half, 2-day journey to get you.
Yep.
And it's going to be interesting because no doubt about it, this filly, I mean, I know her quite well. She's a 425 kilo little horse, and she possesses a lot of speed. Don't be fooled by the Silvano aspect. Her mother, Victoria Lavelle, was a stakes-winning juvenile. And that is where the genetics have laid here, because this is a very, very quick filly. Very impressive first time out, beat a decent sort as well,
yep.
But beaten in handicaps twice after that. And that makes you think, how much scope or growth is there off her 92 rating? So she's really going to have it up against her travelling.
And fancied in both her last 2 starts as well, which was a bit disappointing. Conditions are going to play a big part in the race like this. If the conditions are in her favour, she's got to be a horse to watch out for. But in my opinion, there's a lot more value in the race.
I agree with you. I think the value is with the locals. Look, number 10, Vivacious Spirit, may well be good enough to come and win. But I think when you tell me Distinction is 5-1, I think maybe those betting prices should be swapped around, because Distinction, she was a loser in the boardroom last time,
yeah,
and ran a massive, massive race quite far out at the weights and got really close to losing the race literally by Stipe's decision. And obviously ran a pretty good race next time out in the feature event, won by Princess Callis. She got very close.
Yep.
And Distinction ran a lot higher than her MR90, which she takes into this race. And I think she represents a lot of value at 5-1.
And what was eye-catching last time was the betting support. Backed in from around 11-2 into 28-10, 3-1. So that was very eye-catching. So for me, 5-1, I don't see it lasting much, very long on Sunday.
I think so too. I think she's going to get slammed in. So we've covered those 2 runners, but it doesn't stop there, because once you look past them, it obviously gets fairly open. I think you've got to give a lot of respect there to number 6, Pacific Green, who obviously, Kurt, was a last start winner and quite an impressive winner. The pace was on, but she's come from last to first.
Yep, absolutely. Bit of a question mark over the 1200, and she's giving weight away to a horse like Live My Life, who I think at around 9-2 is also value. Again, you could quite easily swap the 2 around with Pacific Green and Live My Life in terms of betting. A very eye-catching first start for Live My Life in Cape Town. Moved up to runners and just got tired, probably the last bit being her first starts in Cape Town.
I don't think there's going to be too much between them again. And we must say, obviously, the Raiders have done particularly well. I think Mr. Dreyer hasn't got off the mark yet. All the other guys have got off the mark, so Mr. Dreyer will be looking to be cashing in on his Race Cape incentive bonuses. Let's look outside of the bookmakers' favourites there. In terms of older horses that might be able to upset, number 3, Little Miss Pink, she's quite consistent and ran a very good third behind Bonica last start.
Hard knocker, just hard knocker, and you got to respect that last run behind Bonica. That was a very, very good run.
Number 9, Winter Fury Stables, coming back into form. They had a winner the other day, and the horses have been running pretty well. Also, been dropping in the handicap quite a bit and could be competitive.
Well, that's it. It was just a matter of time before the stable turned. Grant starting to ride winners too. Course and distance form, hasn't missed a placings. 1 win, 1 second, a third and a fourth. So that's eye-catching, and also getting weight from Pacific Green on Sunday too. So you can't rule out of the shake-up.
If we just touch on some runners from other races on the card on Sunday, Kurt. This horse I thought is quite interesting. We didn't cover the race, but in race 5 you got number 7, Professor Snape. Now he was a horse who came with quite a bit of a reputation when he started at the track. He didn't disappoint, but he wasn't quick off the mark in winning. I think he was a runner-up in his first 2 starts. He then got the gelding and he's won, and he's stepping up in trip now, and he's from that Grey family of Fastfonteins that is a really prominent family, and looking for the trip. He could be a horse who might be a good win bet on the card. What do you think?
Massive runner on the day, just I could not believe the drift last time in the betting. On that particular day, I made him the best bet on the card. He drifted considerably from around 18 to 10, 16 to 10, right out to 4 to 1, 9 to 2. I think you could have actually got 5 to 1 time of race, which was unbelievable. Stepping up in trip on Sunday, and I think he's crying out for the extra ground too, so he's got to be a massive runner.
Well, I know Rakesh Sugalam, the owner of this horse, and his trainer have been very bullish about his ability and his long-term prospects of making it as an above-the-grade racehorse, and hopefully he keeps building up with each run. That is the end of this segment. We'll be back with the Cape Merchants. Don't go away. We've got a big segment, we've got reruns, and we've got 20 runners in the big one. We're back with the preview of the big one. It's the Cape Merchants. It's a Group 2, 450,000 Rand. And it has attracted an absolute monster of a field. We've got 20 runners plus a reserve, which I think it was always going to be a certainty, Kurt, when we saw what I think you could qualify as the main prep for this, the Bantry Bay Stakes, which was just packed with quality runners. We've got massive form lines coming into this race, and we're going to go through the reruns of them just now. Once again, quite an interesting dynamic. We've got young horses, and we've got the older brigade. Now, we saw Eric the Red as a 3-year-old come into this race and win it. I think he was the first 3-year-old to win the race in many, many decades. I think a lot of 3-year-olds don't try and win this race, but now with him, should we call him a trailblazer, we now see we're jamming here. And one thing we were just chatting to above off air is, these 3-year-olds seem to do very, very well against older horses this time of year. Especially this year, they've been cleaning up.
Absolutely.
And Kurt, I mean, they have a big weight for age allowance at this time of year, and that really helps. And you look at We're Jamming, he's 106. It's a criminal rating, not by any fault of the handicappers. I mean, they just haven't had the chance to catch him yet. And you got to imagine he's going to end up being a 115 to 120 sprinter at some stage. Coming in this race with 52, is he your leading pick?
He's got to be one of the leading picks. But as we always say, the 3-year-olds, bumping older hard knockers, it's always a bit of a question mark, but he's got to be one of the leading contenders.
How were they betting? Give us an indication there.
Betting wide open, as we've seen for the previous races on the card. It's a very competitive day, and nothing changes for the Merchants. 5 to 1 the field. We're Jamming, Give Me a Prince, and Resonate, all top of the boards at 5 to 1. Zapatilis coming off a bit of a rest at 8 to 1. Sir J 9 to 1. Safe Return 12 to 1, and 14 to 1 bar the rest of the runners.
Fantastic. Thank you, Kurt. Well, let's go straight into the nitty-gritty. We are going to bring you the reruns, and we've got the sophomore here. We've got our leading contender. We are jamming the 3-year-old. We are going to go through that race, and you can see him there in the Greg Bort colors, the lighter blue with the turquoise and the noseband. We've got Trumpy, the trailblazer. He's a pacemaker. He's out in front in the colors of Makunga Jadia. And we're jamming, getting the niggles there from Richard. He's got the best run. I think it's Piroshka on the outside, just making it a little bit tight. But you see him drop now and really quicken on well. Hit him hard. Sunshine is up on the inside too. Trumpy is ever so game. I mean, Kurt, he's a real good sprinter, this Trumpy. He looked like the horse to beat if he was going to get the trip this day. I think we can firmly say he did get the trip, but over the top of them, we're jamming, just too strong.
Absolutely. Super impressive win. And on the day, he had to be a huge runner and very impressive win.
Yeah, and he was a horse that obviously was campaigning for Pete Steyn as a 2-year-old, and he was a crack 2-year-old, and he was brought in training by the Snaith Racing team for Greg Bortz. And you've got to say goodbye, well done, mission accomplished. He has won very, very well, and he's no doubt going to be a Group 1 performer for the rest of his career. And one thing about that horse, and we actually touched on it last time, he's a Duke of Marmalade, but he is a powerhouse, and we drew comparison to Johan Janse van Vuren's filly True to Life, who was also a Duke and also a sprinter, very similar built horses, and I think they found his distance niche here, and they're going to look forward to a good career with him.
Yep, absolutely, and he looks like he's a 1,200 meter specialist, like you say.
Well, let's go into the next rerun, because this is where we are going to see, wow, a massive collateral form line is an understatement, because we have got tons of horses coming out of the Bantry Bay Stakes, and Sir J, I mean, Kurt, what do you make of this horse? He keeps defying the handicapper. We see Komodiding, we went over this race last time, tucked in at the back. You've got a hard luck story with a few horses. Barcelona with a white face in front of Komodiding, couldn't get a run till late. Sir J moves up now on the outside, and he blows them away. Bereave on the inside runs a big race. And then there's a couple of horses all next to each other. Tempting Fate, Safe Return, Barcelona, all in the mix.
Yep.
What do you make of Sir J? He keeps defying the handicapper. Can he do it again?
Quite possibly. He's one of those horses who just keeps on improving, and you've got to respect his chances here. He's giving away to a lot of horses on Sunday, and he's got to have to improve again to win, in my opinion.
I think the key there, if you look at just the general quality of the race, we had Comet Diding obviously in second, but just behind in third was a horse called Trip of Fortune, who blew them away in the WSB Greenpoint Stakes last time. And then you take a little step back a length, and there's a real blanket of horses there, isn't there? So if we're looking for horses coming out of that race, you're going to take Sergey away from it. You might say he doesn't run his race on the day. Mr. Master Starter, Bereaved, Tempting Fate, Barcelona could have been a length closer.
Yeah.
It becomes really open, doesn't it?
It becomes very competitive, and there's not much, like you say, that you could throw a blanket over them. There's not much between them. Very, very competitive if you had to take Sergey out the equation.
I think the next rerun we're going to take is a very interesting one, because it sort of brings in a third different line of form, and they're all very strong lines, which is making this race very, very tough to read and predict. But the next one is going to be the rerun from Resonate, who has really become a crack sprinter over the course of his career. And once again, there he is, Kurt, his usual running style. He's out the back door. He's the chestnut with the white face, and he switched off the speed, comes to the outside, blows them away with a devastating turn of foot, which he is used to. But I think the interesting runner here is the Lady Laidlaw horse making his run through the middle, which is Give Me a Prince. This is a very, very promising colt. Lightly raced, no chance the handicap has got near him yet. And he does his best work late here too after getting out. He has got to be a big runner, and he must have a massive chance at turning the tables with Resonate on this performance. Look at him doing his best work late.
Absolutely, and on Sunday, an extra 100 meters, which is going to be in his favor. A very eye-catching run. He was off the bit for a long way, hard-ridden to get up there, but very, very eye-catching that last 100 meters of that race. So he's got to be a huge contender.
And I think there you can see there's a bit of intertwining of the lines there, because none other than third in the very famous and prominent colours of Suzette Falloon was Sergey himself. So this is going to be, Kurt, this is the epitome of a handicap. 20 runners, you can make a case for 10 to 12 horses being within a two-length radius of each other, which is going to make it very, very competitive. Outside of the horses we've mentioned, Tread Swiftly ran a good big race behind Vars Vicky last time. Outside chance?
Very, very good run. Travelling is a question mark. That's the only question mark for me. But yeah, he's got to be a runner. Horse like Zapatilis coming off quite a long break. 2 from 2 over the 1,200 meters, but he's a class package. And like we always say, there's no substitute for class.
And there's precedent for it this season, because as we've seen with these better horses over ground, we saw Comet Diding in the Bantry Bay almost pull it off. We saw the other day Princess Colour in the Southern Cross, way too short. But at the end of the day, class, when these horses are 3 to 4 lengths better than the opposition, even if they're coming back a furlong or two, you do seem to tend to see a big performance from them.
Absolutely.
I can't really see Zapatilis being too far back. I mean, he is a horse who possesses a lot of speed as well.
Absolutely, and he's going to be fresh, which is exactly what he needs for a race like this. Even if it is a prep run for him, he's got to be in the shake-up.
A horse like Mr. Cobbs, he's got to be an interesting horse, because I remember in a big weight for age Group 1 race, he almost pulled it off at a shock outside. It could have been the Cape Fly or maybe the Mercury. He's went a little bit off form, and with that came a big rating drop, and he finds himself with bottom weight here. And last time he showed a bit of maybe a return to form, being only beaten 2 lengths by Resonate. So even at his best, he's got to have a chance.
Got to have a chance, but he's got to prove himself over 1,200, which he hasn't done. His best run, like you alluded to in the Cape Flyer, was over 1,000 meters, and I think his best form has been over 1,000 meters. So for me, in a race like this, there's too many 1,200 meter specialists in a race like this. He's got his work cut out for him.
It would be remiss of us not to talk about Al Mutana. Now, he's an interesting runner for a few reasons. He's trained by Ricky Maingard, who we welcome here as a raider for the Cape Summer season. A fantastic institution, royalty in the Mauritian training ranks, and it's good to see him at the races. He's obviously prepping this horse for the Lomrans King's Plate and bigger things. But the interesting part, he's carrying 64.5. Bernard won't have to waste too much for that. So I'm sure he'll be pretty happy that he can have a glass of water after his Cardiff rides. And he's the type of horse, generally in a mile, he's normally coming from off the speed too. So you'd expect him to be a bit outpaced and running on here.
Definitely. If it was a 1,400, you could make a case for him. But carrying 64.5 in a race like this after a long break, I think he's got his work cut out. And like you say, he's got bigger things to look forward to.
And the depth of the field doesn't stop there, because the further you go down, you've got horses like Good Traveller, Ambiorix, Group 1 winners in their own right. And one thing about these sprinters, Kurt, they can be all form, and then on the day when they're feeling well, they can run huge. So very, very open race.
Absolutely, and conditions are going to play a huge part on the day too. You see horses like Sergey, Resonate, Give Me a Prince, they all like to be switched off and come with a late run. If there's a headwind on the day, it's going to suit them. But if there's a pumping tailwind, which it could quite possibly be if the rain comes, it's not going to really suit them. So that's got something that punters have got to take into account on the day.
Fantastic. Well, that's our wrap up for the Cape Merchants Day. See you here. Look for the weather. It might be raining. There might be a bit of wind. It's not going to dampen our spirits, and racing is going to be going off without a hitch. Good luck and happy punting.